Right now, as you watch this, somewhere in the world, a cyber attack just happened. Not in a movie, not in a thriller. Right now. In the time it takes you to finish this sentence, Cloudflare will have blocked over 3 million malicious requests. And here's what's wild. You've used Cloudflare today. Almost certainly. You just had absolutely no idea. This is the story of a company that built itself in the shadows of the internet, became irreplaceable before most people even knew its name, and then found itself at the center of some of the most controversial moments in the history of the web. And before this video is over, I'm going to tell you the moment, the single decision that almost destroyed them, and then made them untouchable. Stay with me. To understand what Cloudflare actually does, you need to remember what the internet used to feel like. Slow, fragile, vulnerable. In the early 2000s, if you ran a website and someone decided to attack it, you were basically on your own. Your hosting company might help, might not. Big enterprise companies could afford expensive security solutions. Everybody else? Good luck. The most common attack was something called a DDoS, a distributed denial of service attack. Essentially, bad actors flood your website with so much fake traffic that your real users can't get through. Think of it like someone hiring 10,000 people to stand in front of your store so none of your actual customers can get in. Simple concept, devastating results, and in 2004, a Harvard student named Matthew Prince was trying to figure out where spam emails actually came from, not to stop them, just out of pure curiosity. He built a little tool called Project Honeypot, a way to track spammers and map their behavior across the internet. He didn't know it yet, but he just planted the seed for a company that would one day handle nearly a fifth of all internet traffic on Earth. Fast forward to 2009. Matthew Prince is at Harvard Business School. He reconnects with a classmate named Michelle Zatlyn. They start talking about the internet, about security, about this massive gap between what big corporations could afford and what everyone else had access to. And they have a simple, almost naive-sounding idea. What if we could give every website on the internet, big, small, a one-person blog, a Fortune 500 company, the same level of protection? They brought in a third co-founder, Lee Holloway, who was a technical genius, someone who could actually build the thing they were imagining. And in 2009, they launched Cloudflare, not with a massive funding round, not with a splashy press release. They launched it quietly at a tech conference called TechCrunch Disrupt, and in their first 24 hours, they signed up 10,000 websites, not users, websites, entire websites, putting their traffic through this brand new infrastructure they'd barely finished building. Here's where I need to explain what Cloudflare actually built, because this is the part that most people get wrong. Most people think Cloudflare is just a security company. It's not. Think of the internet like a postal system. When you type in a website address, your request has to travel, physically, through cables and routers, to a server somewhere in the world, get what it needs, and come back to you. Cloudflare built what's called a Content Delivery Network, or CDN. They put servers and data centers all over the world, over 300 cities now. So instead of your request traveling from, say, Warsaw to a server in San Francisco and back, Cloudflare intercepts it at a server in Frankfurt just a few milliseconds away. Your website loads faster, but here's the brilliant part. Because all that traffic is passing through Cloudflare's network, they can inspect it. They can see which requests are legitimate and which are malicious. They can block attacks before they ever reach your actual server. Speed and security in one product. And the business model was even smarter. They made the basic version completely free. This was not an accident. This was a deliberate, calculated bet. Matthew Prince understood something about the internet security market that incumbents had missed. The way you become dominant in infrastructure is you become necessary first. You get embedded, you get trusted. You let the small players, the indie developers, the bloggers, the startup founders, you let them build on you for free. And then, when they grow, they're already yours. It's the same playbook Amazon used with AWS, the same playbook Stripe used with payments. Make the barrier to entry zero, make switching away painful, and scale. By 2012, they were protecting over 200,000 websites. By 2015, it was over 4 million. Today, over 20% of all websites on the internet use Cloudflare. That's not a market share statistic. That's infrastructure. But here's where the story gets complicated. When you become the security layer for the entire internet, you inevitably end up protecting websites you might not want to protect. In 2012, Cloudflare found itself providing services to some genuinely controversial sites, hate speech forums, extremist communities, sites that other companies had already kicked off their platforms. And for years, their answer was consistent. We are infrastructure. We don't make editorial decisions. If a site is legal, we protect it. Full stop. They compared themselves to a phone company. The phone company doesn't decide who gets to make calls based on what they might say on the call. Cloudflare, they argued, was the same. It was a principled position. And for a long time, it held. Until August 2017. A neo-Nazi website called The Daily Stormer published an article mocking a woman who had been killed during the Charlottesville violence. The backlash was immediate and enormous. Hosting companies dropped them. Domain registrars dropped them. And pressure mounted on Cloudflare to drop them too. Matthew Prince made a decision. He terminated the Daily Stormer's account. And then he did something extraordinary. He wrote a public blog post about it. And in that post, he said something that sent shockwaves through the tech industry. He wrote, and I want you to hear this carefully, "I woke up in a bad mood and decided to kick them off the internet." He wasn't bragging. He was alarmed by himself. His point was this: if the CEO of a private infrastructure company can wake up on the wrong side of the bed and decide to remove a website from the internet, that's terrifying. That's too much power for any one person or one company to have. And he was talking about himself. It sparked a debate about free speech, platform responsibility, and the unchecked power of internet infrastructure companies that is still not resolved today. Cloudflare's principled fence-sitting had ended, but what replaced it was more complicated and arguably more honest than what came before. Here's what that moment revealed about the business of being Cloudflare. When you are infrastructure, you can't hide. Every decision you make, or don't make, is a statement. There is no neutral. That's the burden that comes with scale. But it's also, paradoxically, what makes Cloudflare so valuable. Because while everyone was debating the ethics, Cloudflare's engineers were shipping products at a pace that would make most Silicon Valley companies nervous. In 2017, they launched Cloudflare Workers, a platform that lets developers run code directly on Cloudflare's network, in those 300+ cities around the world, instead of on a central server. In 2019, they launched a free, privacy-first DNS resolver, 1.1.1.1, that became one of the fastest DNS services on the planet within days of launch. In 2020, they built out their Zero Trust Security Suite, a product category that would become essential during the remote work revolution. Instead of assuming everyone inside your corporate network is safe, Zero Trust assumes nobody is safe until they're verified. Every user, every device, every request. It sounds paranoid. It's actually just accurate. In September 2020, Cloudflare went public on the New York Stock Exchange. Ticker symbol NET. They priced shares at $15. By the end of that first day, they were trading at $28. The market had decided something that the broader business world was just beginning to understand. Cloudflare wasn't a security company. It wasn't a CDN company. It was building the nervous system of the internet. Think about what the nervous system does. It doesn't just carry information. It filters, protects, accelerates, and makes split-second decisions about what's dangerous and what's safe. That's exactly what Cloudflare does for millions of websites, billions of people, every second of every day. Let's talk about what this means for business. Whether you run a global e-commerce platform or a 5-page company website, Cloudflare's product suite addresses something every business with an internet presence faces: the gap between what you need and what you can afford to build yourself. A mid-sized company probably can't afford to hire a dedicated cybersecurity team, build global infrastructure, and maintain sub-100 millisecond load times worldwide. But a Cloudflare subscription, even their mid-tier business plan, gives you access to infrastructure that was, a decade ago, reserved for companies like Google and Amazon. That democratization of the internet's underlying layer, that's the real product. That's what Matthew Prince figured out in that Harvard Business School classroom. And the numbers tell the story. Businesses that implement Cloudflare typically see page load times drop by 30 to 60%. Attack mitigation that used to cost tens of thousands of dollars in enterprise contracts is now built in. The ROI isn't complicated to calculate, so here's where we land. Cloudflare started as a curiosity project about spam emails. It grew into a company that sits between billions of internet users and the websites they visit every single day. They've made decisions that invited praise and invited fury in equal measure. They've had moments of principle and moments of uncomfortable honesty about the limits of that principle. But what they built underneath all of that is extraordinary. The next time your website loads quickly, the next time you notice a site is down then comes back, the next time you hear about a record-breaking DDoS attack that somehow didn't take down a major service, there's a decent chance that little orange cloud was working quietly, invisibly, the way the best infrastructure always does. If you're thinking about internet infrastructure, cybersecurity, or just how the business of the web actually works, there's a lot more on this channel. The next video is right there. We'll see you in it.